Do you ever feel like there has to be something all the top entrepreneurs are doing differently from you that's letting them scale faster without their business relying entirely on them? Well, the truth is, the top CEOs and business owners run their businesses in completely different ways. At selfmastery.co, I've helped dozens of 6, 7, and 8 figure business owners step out of the day to day, scale faster, and redesign their business to depend less on them. So, in this video, I'm going to show you the exact system CEOs and top business owners use so you can scale your business faster, make it depend less on you, and so your business can run how a business should be run. But to show you how this works, you need to understand how the top CEOs differ from normal business owners. So, you know the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, right? Well, what do you think he spends his time doing? He's not running around Apple's stores fixing iPhones. He's not answering every email or spending all day putting out fires in the factories. And he's not checking every social media post or sorting payroll, because if he did that, he wouldn't have any time to do the work that only he can do, the high-level moves that are going to keep Apple growing. But yet, the vast majority of business owners are running around wearing every hat, leaving them with no time for those important tasks. However, after working with countless business owners at selfmastery.co, links in the description by the way, there's only 4 steps you need to follow to start running your business like a top CEO. So to start, I'm going to show you step 1, which will make not only you, but every employee you have 10 times more valuable and actually ensure everyone moves the business forward. Because imagine you and your entire team were in a rowboat, okay? But nobody knew where they were trying to row to, and so everyone was rowing in different directions. Everyone's sort of messing about, wasting time, and you're having to spend most of your time redirecting people, trying to keep everyone moving forward to where they should go, even though nobody knows where they should go. That's likely how your business feels right now. Everyone's working, but you're going in circles. And the fix is surprisingly simple. You need something that keeps everyone moving in the right direction without you holding their hand every second of the day, which means you need to set rocks. And I don't mean go out and pick up a few rocks from outside and put them in your workspace. No, a rock is a 90-day goal. Okay, so every quarter, spend a day and think about the roughly 3 things your business would need to complete or achieve or do over the next 90 days to move forward in a significant way. What these are will largely depend on your business, your bottlenecks, everything else. But as long as they're big for 90 days and they're specific, they are good. But I will say that's not enough to keep every employee focused and moving the business forward. Okay, so what you need to do next is break down your company rocks for the quarter into individual rocks for the quarter. So if you have an operational goal of systemizing your client fulfillment this quarter, you want to give everyone in your operations team a 90-day goal that if they achieve, the company will achieve its goal. Obviously now, not everybody on your team will have a rock related to a company rock. For example, if you don't have any goals or rocks around marketing this quarter, then the people doing your marketing won't have any rocks related to a company rock, but you can still give them personal goals for this quarter that will improve the business. Now, all of a sudden, every single person in the business has something they need to accomplish and prioritize this quarter that actually matters and will actually improve the bloody business. Of course, if you don't have any team members, you just set some company rocks and all of a sudden they are your rocks because you're the only person in the team. But step 2 here will make sure both you and your team actually stick to these rocks and get something done for them every single day. Because let's face it, we've all been there. I've been there. I've set rocks and goals for myself and team members in the past only for 2 weeks to go by and I would forget about them and I don't know what I need to do next or when I have to do what and when I want to have it done. And so I ended up scrapping all the goals, chugging along the next quarter with absolutely no changes, and then I would repeat the process, which is why I came up with this solution a while back for myself. But after I started giving it to clients at selfmastery.co, it turns out they absolutely love it too, because it takes the big vision, your goals, and brings it down to the day-to-day and it makes it actionable really. So let me show you it, okay? I do have a spreadsheet for this, which I normally keep for clients, but I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to get it. But what you want to do is you want to take your rocks, you want to turn them into strategic actions. You list the rocks or the goal in the left-hand column. You break it down into specific actionable steps in the second column. You assign due dates for each step and an owner for each step. Simple, okay? Obviously, you want one of these for your rocks, but also make sure every team member has one for their rocks, because to make this really actionable, you want to get every single employee, and of course you, to come to this sheet every night, see what their next step is, and then prioritize it tomorrow. And I know this is such revolutionary stuff. I know it's amazing, but in all seriousness, I get that this is simple, okay? But that is why it works. I've used, and my clients have used, the likes of ClickUp and Asana and all these other tools, but really they're way too overly complex, and so nobody ever really uses them. This is simple. It's easy to understand. Everybody can use it. I've had construction companies use it. I've had medical practices use it. I've had so many different types of businesses use it and they love it. And it guarantees everybody achieves the rock every quarter without you holding their hand and prodding at them because, well, this sheet just tells them what they need to do tomorrow or the next day. And so every 90 days, your business moves forward and improves and grows. And it doesn't depend on you to make it happen. But step 3 is going to show you how to keep everyone accountable every week so that nobody falls off or slacks behind. Because the things you need to grow your business, be it rocks, solving bottlenecks, etc., are like packages on a conveyor belt. They should be moving forward. But in most businesses, that conveyor belt gets jammed simply because no one is checking what's stuck, missing, or broken. So how can you keep everything moving forward so that the business keeps moving forward? Well, you use weekly meetings. Now, I get that everyone is convinced that meetings are useless and a waste of time, and you probably didn't expect me to be pro meetings. It seems like I should be anti meetings, but that's only because 99% of meetings are a complete waste of time. You as the business owner only need one meeting with your team a week. At least that is if you structure it like I'm about to show you. So instead of, having a meeting with no plan or agenda or no structure or a plan and structure agenda that gets derailed 5 minutes in, your meeting, which should take place on a Monday, should cover these 4 things. First, you want to go over the scorecards. Now, scorecards are basically data sheets which show you how every system in your business is performing, which means it also shows you your bottlenecks. So you want to spend literally about 5 minutes going over the scorecards each week. Just take note, like literally write down any changes from last week that are noticeable and any potential bottleneck. Of course, obviously, if you're already working on solving a bottleneck from previous weeks, you don't need to look for new bottlenecks. Just take note of the progress of the current bottleneck you're trying to solve, because bit of a tangent, but there's only ever one bottleneck in your system or in your business as a whole. So we want to go all in on solving it until it's solved rather than jumping around every metric and fixing none of them. You then want to spend, again, another 5 minutes or so on your rocks. What this means is you go through every person in the meeting. How many people are in your meetings really depends on team size. If you have a small team, you could probably have every single team member in the business. If you have a big team, maybe only your team leaders, managers, department heads, whatever you call them. And you basically want to go around every person in the meeting and ask them one question, which is, are you on track or off track for your rock? To which they respond only 2 words, on track or off track. Basically, are they on pace according to the deadlines in their strategic action sheet for achieving the rock? Now, if they respond with the 2 words, off track, they will likely try to ramble and justify. It is up to you as the leader of the meeting to not let them do that, because that is how meetings waste so much time. People ramble, miss the point and all the rest. They bring up a problem and they try to justify why that problem exists and all this here, and it's a pile of crap. You cannot let that happen. Okay, so if they try to ramble, it is up to you to stop them. Now, if they bring up a problem, and it's a real problem, you want to write that problem down somewhere, okay? But don't let them ramble. Stop them, okay? You're going to come back to the problem later. Just note it down. And anybody who is off track with their rock, write it down in that problem list. Then you want to spend another 5 or so minutes going over to-dos, which means you go around everyone in the meeting and ask, what are your 1 to 3 most important tasks for this week? They tell you the most important tasks, this can really vary depending on the person's roles, but at least one of them should be around a rock, like their next step of their strategic action. If there's a bottleneck in their department that they should be solving, then potentially one of their most important tasks for the week should be around fixing that, and so on. It really depends on the role. And you'll have to use some context and common sense to judge if the task is actually important. Again, don't let anybody ramble or justify tasks or whatever. Just get task names. And if anybody doesn't know their most important tasks this week, or if you're convinced one of them isn't that important, write it down, okay, in that big list of problems. And then finally, you want to spend the rest of the meeting, which will likely end up being around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how much time you've scheduled for the meeting entirely. You basically want to go through the big list of things you wrote down throughout the meeting, the problems. So if there was a problem in the scorecards or around somebody's rock or to-do, or some problem that somebody brought up throughout the meeting, you just basically want to go through this list, come up with solutions. Of course, every solution should also have an owner, someone who is going to implement the solution or at least figure out the solution. And with this meeting, it basically means your business self-corrects every 7 days because everyone is held accountable, the data is reviewed, and any problem gets solved. This way, the conveyor belt keeps moving. It no longer gets stuck. Everything keeps moving forward. The business keeps growing. And it holds people accountable because, if someone says, oh, I'm off track for my rock, You can now, that's a problem. So you figure out why they're off track for the rock. You solve the problem, help them get back on track for the rock. And all of a sudden they achieve the rock after the 90 days. It's brilliant, okay? Now, you've got the system to keep the team aligned every week, right? So they can keep the business moving forward. But what about you? Because even with all that structure, you still need to act like a CEO. You can't be wearing every hat and doing every job. So let me show you how to fix that with step 4, and it starts with this graph. The further right on the x-axis we go, the longer a task takes. The higher up on the y-axis we go, the more progress the task creates. That rhymes. I didn't mean it to, but let's go with it. So if you imagine 3 tasks on this graph, task 1 takes a lot of time but creates not a lot of progress. Task 2 takes a decent amount of time and creates a somewhat of progress. Task 3 doesn't take that much time but creates a shit ton of progress. Now the question here is, which task should you prioritize? And no, it is not a trick question. It's obvious, right? You should prioritize the low time, high progress task, yeah? But this is exactly where most business owners go wrong, because they prioritize all the high time, low progress tasks like emails, admins, fires, problems, because they feel urgent, and medium time, medium progress tasks like client work, which leaves them with no time for the low time, high progress tasks like the next step of your strategic action or fixing a bottleneck or creating content. So the solution here is you do those low time, high progress tasks first, because they're more important. They create so much more progress. And then you do the medium time, medium progress tasks if you're doing them and they're not delegated. Then you do the high time, low progress tasks, because quite simply they don't matter, at least nowhere near as much as the high progress tasks. So we do them last so they don't distract you from the actual important stuff. For example, you spend 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. doing the next step of your strategic action and working on fixing a bottleneck. Then 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., you do some client work. Then 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., check your emails, put out some fires, etc. And yes, I know I said the likes of emails and fires are high time, and you're probably thinking, Ross, what the fuck are you talking about? It takes 2 seconds to answer an email, but does it? Like, think about it, okay? Checking emails is not a 2-minute task. You end up down some rabbit hole to answer an email, but then you get distracted by something else. Then you get back on track. Then a team member texts you and you answer it. Then a client emails you, so you answer it. Then you go back to the original email you tried to answer, and all of a sudden you realize 2 hours have passed and you've done nothing. Okay. So if you want to run your business like a CEO, act like one, okay? And focus on the high level moves that only the CEO can do. Then if you have to, because you haven't delegated them or whatever, do the client work, put out the fires, answer the emails, etc. And I get that in practice, this is hard because you're going to have a ton of, day to day in the business work to do and fires to solve and team members to help. So you need to get all of that off your plate, which means you need to systemize your business. So click the video on screen now and I'll show you exactly how to do that.